So I'm interrupting our series on the Upside Down Kingdom. We've been looking at the parables of Jesus in Matthew. We're going to continue that, but I'm interrupting this today because sometimes we need an interruption. In some ways, I feel like God has used what's happening in our world to disrupt our normal on purpose. Not that he's caused the racial tension or that he's caused COVID, but he's using these things, as he often does in my life. When I look back, it's the interruptions, the disruptions, the surprises that have actually caused me to grow closer to Jesus. It's like in a TV series where they say, we interrupt our normal TV programming to give you a special update. Our normal has been interrupted, from Kenosha, Wisconsin to racial injustice and questions about that. And we long for peace in our cities, and then hurricanes in South Louisiana. And we see these things and it causes angst in us. And people are seeking. Moms who are homeschooling and trying to figure out how to do that, they're seeking. What are they seeking? They're seeking like help or relief or a cure for COVID or shelter from the storm or seeking justice for the oppressed, or how do we do this and stay safe in our cities and seeking relief. Just give me some days I just go, God, I just want a normal, boring day where nothing happened in the world. But sometimes these things are instruments that God uses in his hands to do something in us, to turn us toward him, to say what we really need is to find God in this mess, to see God, to find him. And historically, this seems to be the case. So often when there's been social upheaval, when there have been times where things were in such disruption around us that at the same time there was a spiritual awakening. Now I'm not old enough to remember the details, but I remember as I studied a bit of history, and I like to study revival and how God awakens people to him. And in the 1960s, most people in this room don't remember. If you remember, it's vague. But in the 60s looked a lot like it does today. This is Detroit in 64, and then in DC in about 67 and 68, they brought in 13,000 troops into the city because there was such unrest, and college students were confronting law enforcement, very, very similar things. And they were skeptical of government, anti-establishment, and it's like, we want something new and fresh. And this was the same cry. And at the same time that this was happening, students were also running from this chaos into the arms of Jesus Christ. And what we sometimes forget was at the same time that this was happening, that home Bible studies were beginning to explode, and it was called the Jesus Movement. Right on the heels of all this social upheaval was this Jesus movement where hundreds were getting baptized on the beaches. With Chuck Smith and Calvary Chapel and Greg Laurie, who today is now leading a fantastic church in Southern California, came to Jesus during this period. And this spiritual awakening and people turning to Jesus, and this new sound, this new music that came out, this freshness where people were just like hanging out with Jesus. And it was no more about religion. So sometimes we think that if the world is in chaos, then Jesus can't do anything. But it's actually those moments where Jesus says, this is an opportunity where people are saying, please, God, help us. God, what in the world is happening? He's saying, I'm trying to talk to you. And it can happen again in our day, in this moment. When there's chaos around us, that's what these 3 days have been about. We're saying, God, we want to encounter you. We want to go past the religion, the form, the ritual. We want to spend time with you. We want to get to know you. That's been our heart and our prayer as elders, to say, Jesus, please help us to value your presence and not just do 3 songs, a sermon and a poem and go home. We want to meet with the living God. And this is the heart of what I'm sharing today, called Seekers Find. And I want to look at Psalm 24. Several weeks ago, as we were in the series in the Psalms, and I thought, I want to teach this on Encounter Weekend. So here we are today, and I can't say that this is like, text from Jesus or something, but I do feel this in my heart. And this verse has been in my soul the last few days. Verse 6, it says, "Such is the generation of those who seek him, who seek the face of the God of Jacob." This pursuing, this desire, and he describes this generation, and this is what happened in the 60s, is there arose a generation that began to seek the face of God, really go after him in a personal way. And this is what this poem, this song is about. It's about people who seek God, and he describes them in verse 5. He says, "He will receive blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation." It says the kind of people that receive blessing and favor from God are the kind of people that go after, that seek. So when we talk about seek his face, what do we mean? It means a desire to go after more deeply, to seek the face of God. Guys like A.W. Tozer in The Pursuit of Holy, man, that book rocked me many years ago, or The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. You need to read those. They're public domain. But it's this nurturing of a hunger to go after God. And what do we mean when we say seek God's face or seek his presence? It was like some of you girls, you missed your girl time. It's like Zoom is okay and texting and FaceTime and all that, but man, I miss hanging with my girlfriends. And so some of you have gotten in parking lots on tailgates just because you want to hang out. That's what I'm talking about. It's like not enough just to text and write letters, and all those things are helpful, but it's not like being with somebody. Or like when you were dating. You remember that? Do you remember how it wasn't enough to just be in a group? That was okay, but it's like you wouldn't go somewhere unless, are you going to be there? Because if you're going to be there, I'm going to be there, and we're going to somehow get some alone time. We got to sit together. We got to look in each other's eyes. We want to, as I say today, do you want to hang out? That's the new term for dating. Hang out. What do they mean? They mean like no agenda. We're just together, just to be near. And this is what the poet is talking about. David, he's saying there is a desire to seek God. There's a generation that wants to go after God. But let's start where he starts in this psalm. So where does he begin? In verse 1. Please pull up your copy of God's word. Psalm 24, verse 1, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the rivers." So who is this God that we're going after, that we want to seek? Well, he's the God who has said, "The earth is mine and its fullness." So he's saying that everything that is created, that God has a mark on it. And this is different than the modernist view, which says God lives at church. Make sure you just keep him there. Don't talk about him outside of church because he just belongs at church. No, the earth is the Lord's and its fullness. It's all his. And then he says, the people of the earth, all people. This God doesn't respect persons, creed, or color. This God loves black and white and Asians and Hispanics and Italians and Germans and Irish. And he says, all of them are mine. They're all created in my image. And so it's true what Andrew Kuyper said many years ago. He says, there's not a square inch in the whole domain of human existence over which Christ, who is Lord over all, does not exclaim, mine. Not 1 inch, not one person. God has a right over things because he founded it. So David paints this picture of this amazing God who owns the earth and its inhabitants. This is amazing, creative God is the one that we seek, but he asks the question, David asks the question, and it's important for us to consider it today. He says in verse 3, who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? Who shall stand in his holy place? So he's saying, picture this awesome God and then ask the question, or the question should come to us, well, who can go see him? Who can go visit with God? I mean, this God that created all these things and founded the earth and owns the people, who's going to march right into God's presence and say, hey, God, what's up? Because he's holy and he's sovereign and he's powerful. And this irritates the modern man who says everybody gets a trophy, everyone gets equal access. No, not with God. Who can stand before him? As nice as the Queen of England is, and people who are close to her say that she's amazingly kind and nice and gentle, but I can't call her up and say, hey, I'm in London, let's do tea. How about a spot of tea? Just say, who are you? I can't do that because she's the queen. And so the poet is saying, this is uphill work for the creature to get to God. If there is a God who's done all this, he's certainly not to be trifled with, is he? This amazing creative God of being picture the most powerful person on the earth. Let's just think about humans. So let's think about all the great things and talents in the world all wrapped up in one person. So imagine the talent of Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps and gold medals and the amazing mind of Francis Collins and physicists and all these great abilities. Imagine someone with the Nobel Prize for Science and creativity of Aaron Copland, the composer, and imagine all these things in one person, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and you put all of this, the greatest of all time, into one person, but it's still just a human being. Now, imagine the uncreated. Imagine this God. So this is what the poet is wanting us to think about. So this God who founded these things, now who can go stand before him? Who can approach a God like that? Who can seek a God like that? Like, imagine I'm on a plane and I find myself next to Elon Musk. You guys know who he is, the guy who made the Tesla and creates all these things. He says he's 3 to 4 years away from making an electric-powered jet plane. This guy is off the chain, off the chart, smart, intelligent. Imagine I'm sitting to him and say, yeah, I know you've done all that, but let me tell you something. When I was in high school, I made a go-kart from a lawnmower and a bicycle. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Imagine that. That's kind of the feeling here. It's like, who can ascend? Who can talk to him? And yet here am I on earth. Here you are on earth on this one little planet in a small solar system in a galaxy that would take 53,000 years to get across at light speed. One Milky Way. To the next star, Alpha Centauri, would take you 4+ years at light speed to get there. And yet, this is just one galaxy, one solar system, one planet. I said, okay, now who can go ascend to the hill of the Lord? Feel it. Well, he tells us who can. It's in verse 4. He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not lift up his soul to what is false, does not swear deceitfully. So clean hands, pure heart. So we go, okay, well, then that's what we need to do. We need to have clean hands, need to keep the commandments. Okay, I can do that some of the time. But then there's the pure heart issue. That's talking about motive. So sometimes I can do the right things for the wrong reason. And that's still wrong. If I'm doing the right things. So it's like, I may be doing social media in the morning for devotion. I'm supposed to be doing devotion. I'm on social media. I hear my wife getting ready to walk into the room and I think, I need to get the Bible out. Right thing, wrong reason, wrong motive. My heart needs change. But what is the hope for us? There is hope, my friends, because of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That God promises he will not just help us to do the commandments, he'll actually change your heart. And he's changing my heart, and he's changing our hearts. As I've heard you worship and talked with you, I see how God is changing you from the inside out, not from the outside in. So he says, this is the generation that will seek the Lord. This is a generation that will seek his face. And now David is looking through a telescope into the New Testament when Messiah would come and he would change people from the inside out. It hasn't happened yet, but he gets glimpses of this changed heart, clean hands. Seek and you'll find. But the question comes, if we're to seek God, isn't he with us all the time? I mean, what about that song, Pastor John, using your goodness is running after me? And then the song that says, there ain't no mountain high enough. Well, that's not what it says, but it says, there's no mountain you won't climb up, no wall you won't break down. And we like, yes, that's God running after me. So God is chasing me. Why should I be chasing him? Which one is it? Is God chasing me or am I chasing him? Yes, both. Because here's the deal. God is always pursuing us, but what happens with us is that things get in the way, distractions where I can't see him although he's near. Isn't this true? That there are obstacles, that even the people that we love, things get in the way and we can't see their love momentarily. It's like when grandma comes to see the grandkids and she's saved all her money and she's stayed away from people because she doesn't want to get COVID-19. I'm going to see my babies. And so she saves her money and she climbs up to 36,000 feet on Southwest Airlines and runs to your house and comes in. She can't wait to see the grandkids, and the 12-year-old doesn't come down from her bedroom because she's mad. So, well, I want to see my baby. Where is he? Well, she's upset about I took her phone away last week. And she's mad at me and she doesn't want to come and see you because she wants her phone. She's pouting. And so you go up to baby's room and say, come on, girl. And maybe you really get, little mama comes out, Listen, girl, maybe that starts coming out, but you say, look, it was grandma's money that got you that phone. And she's here and she wants to see you. Don't you want to go downstairs and see her? I want my phone. Wouldn't that just irritate you? Wouldn't that make grandma just like, well, why did I even climb 36,000 feet to come down here and see the kids when they don't even want to see me? And yet this is the way we are. That sometimes with God's gifts and his blessings, and we receive that from his hand, and then the distractions get in the way, and God's saying, I just want to be with you. And we're saying, yeah, but what have you done for me lately? And we're kind of sulking in our basement while we're saying, God, until you show up and do what I want you to do, I'm not sure I want to meet with you. And God's just saying, I have pleasures at my right hand. In my presence is fullness of joy. Come and seek me. Seek my face. And this is a personal choice that we have, my friends. That's why the Bible says things like in Colossians chapter 3, verse 1, the Apostle Paul says, set your mind on things above. So that's something you do. That's something I have to do. To say, okay, here's the distractions. Here are the things that are getting in my way, but I make a decision to set my mind on things above. Or it says in 1 Chronicles 16:11, seek the Lord and his strength, seek his presence continually. Or the psalmist in Psalm 27, one thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I go after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold his beauty. Why? Because I can be distracted and I can miss his nearness. So what do? I have to pray and say, God, please help me remove the distractions as I'm opening the Bible, that I can see you. Or as I'm going next door and I'm talking to my irritated neighbor who I can't stand, please help me to see your face. Help me to sense your presence as I'm teaching my children. Help me to love them the way you love. That's what we're doing. We're seeking God in all things. So it's not just a long worship service. That's awesome. But it's seeking God in the 24/7, the everyday normal, because I can be distracted and I need him because he's the only one who satisfies. It's the only thing that can truly satisfy my soul. So I need to seek him and not his gifts alone. I need to have the person of Jesus Christ. You were created, my friends, with a black hole in your heart that nothing can satisfy except God. But when we seek other things and we aren't satisfied, then we get irritated and we don't realize that God's just saying, hey, look over here. I have what will satisfy your soul. It's like hunger pains that when you have them sometimes when I think I'm hungry, and so what do? Instead of eating a healthy meal, I'm a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of potato chips, and it's like the hunger pain is gone, but then I feel, you feel the yucky feeling from the carb crash. And I'm no longer seeking a healthy meal. And it's the same with our spiritual appetite. We feel these longings and we think we know what will fill them. Well, I need a little bit of This Is Us, a little bit of social media, a little bit of CNN and Fox, and then you go, ugh. Why do I feel this way? Or maybe it's your favorite preacher on podcasts and I know I need a little spiritual something right now. I'm going to tune in to my favorite preacher and then my favorite 3 worship songs, but it doesn't go far enough because you aren't really seeking him. And God has a way of meeting the deeper need of our soul. So David says, the psalmist says, I want to show you what happens when you really go after him. This is a generation that seeks him. And what do they find? Glad you ask. Verse 7. Lift up your heads, O gates. Be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. So he's gone from saying, who can ascend? Who can go up? And now he's saying, who's at the gate? Who is that right outside your door? So it's like in Revelation 3:20, behold, I stand at the door and knock. God is saying, I'm not far away. I am right at the gate. So David, the writer, gives us this picture of a king coming in from a mighty battle, and he's outside the gates, and his entourage is coming up, and the white horses are prancing, and his entourage before and after, flags are waving, and this king is at the gate, and there's a watchman is saying, who's there? Who is that? I'll tell you who it is. It is God himself. And God is saying, open the gates, open the doors. We can't ascend into heaven. We can't get there. It's an uphill climb. We don't have enough clean hands and pure heart to get up there. So God has come down to us in the person of Jesus Christ. He came and dwelt among us. He says, I will give you a clean heart. I will give you a pure heart. I will help you to do the commandments. And if the doors of heaven are swinging open to Jesus after his resurrection, you better believe that there are doors in your heart that you can swing open to receive the King of glory. That Jesus waits for you to say, come on in. Lift up your heads, my friends. Lift up your heads, you weary sinner. Lift up your heads, you person who feels like I am so far from God, I can never reach him. Lift up your heads. He's right at the gate. He's right at the door. He's saying, just open the door and I will come in. And as we anticipate his coming, we lift up our heads, not only in the days to come when he will return in glory and every eye will see him. And that's going to be awesome. But also in the here and now, my friends, let's open the gates of our hearts and lift up our eyes and seek him and say, there's my Jesus, the King of glory. The picture that came to my mind as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about sometimes on a Friday when my wife goes to grocery shopping and my little dog Odie and I are sitting on the front porch in the swing and I hear the car slow down on the outer road and I hear the wheels get into the gravel and I'll go, hey, Odie, is that mommy? He's like, yes, I think it is. I said, I think that's mommy. I really do. And he's like, oh, I think it is. I think it is. He takes off like a bullet down the road and his tail is going like a helicopter, man. And he's like, mommy, here I am, here I am. And then the Queen of Glory, she opens her doors. And the Queen of Glory opens her doors and Odie jumps in and he's like right in her face, doggy kisses and all. And she says, yes, 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 I love you. And hugs and kisses. And the King of Glory wants us to feel like that. Is that my King at the door? Is that my King? Is that him? Yeah, I think it's him. I think it's him. You know what I'm going to do? Open the doors of my heart, open the doors of the church and say, come on in, King of Glory. You're welcome here. You're welcome here. Come in and reign among us. You who are mighty in battle, mighty to save. Do it again, do it again, do it again. Make mountains move. Make people get up out of their spiritual slumber and awaken me to your presence and to your glory and to your awesomeness. Lift up your heads, my friends. Let the King of Glory come in. Brother Lawrence said, I cannot imagine how religious persons can live satisfied without the presence of God. For my part, I keep myself at rest in the center of the depths of my being as much as I can. And while I'm living like that, I fear nothing. But to turn away from him in the least is unbearable. I want that. I want to feel like that. I feel like it's just unbearable for me to do anything less but to be at rest in God's presence. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about you who have had a semblance of relationship with him, and the Lord loves you and he'll take whatever he can get, but he's wanting you to hang out with him. He's wanting you to go to the extra step. And I think you've tasted of it. You know, you're singing a song and it's just like you feel God's nearness. Go with it. And talk to Jesus in those moments. And you open the Bible and you're saying, God, I want to do more than just check my box on I read my chapters today. I want to meet you. Then say that to him. Say, Lord, I'm seeking you right here as I open this and it feels dry and dusty. Just say that to him. And I want it to be real. Or you're driving down the road and a song comes on the radio and a tear comes to your eye. Realize that's the Lord. Seek to be near him. Value his presence. Lift up your heads. Let the King of Glory come in. Encounter him. I want Isaac to come and I want us to, before we go, set our minds and our hearts to seek the Lord. Not just here and now, yes, here and now, Encounter Weekend, but I want us to go from this place. And you, my friend, if you thought it was just about religion, that maybe today you just got a glimpse of seeing, it's really more than that. It's like being with the most interesting person in the universe and going, it's so good to be with you, to be in your presence. And so, Lord, we set our hearts and our minds on you this morning, and we're weak and we're distracted by all the trouble that's around us and the chaos. Would you please use that to help us turn back to you and to love you more, to love your presence. And God, we believe that there is a generation that is rising up to seek the face of God, not just his hand, not just his gifts, but him, the person of Jesus. Let's pause and right where you are at home, right here in this room, say, Lord, we want you, not just what you can do.